As we mentioned in the last chapter, media is one of the primary things that shape our political socialization or the way we see the world politically. And media has an agenda-setting effect. Perhaps the most important impact of media is simply picking which stories get covered and what gets talked about. By highlighting some stories and ignoring others, we can really shape the conversation in America. Um, the media also influences the criteria by which the public evaluates its political leaders. What the media chooses to focus on, and sometimes that might be someone's tie, literally, or their body language. Ideally, we would like to see them focus on policy, but they don't do that. I remember in 2009, I guess it was, there was a huge story that was everywhere about what President Obama ate on his hot dog, or his hot dog or hamburger. I can't remember which one. And this is a big deal. There was a big story during the 2008 election about how bad a bowler he was. So choosing which things to talk about can shape what's important to us, and it can also shape how we see a person or a story. Another thing that's important to understand is that, particularly with 24-hour news media and daily news sites on the internet, they have to come up with something every single day. Whether news happens or not, on the most boring, slow news day of the year, or on the most exciting, important news day of the year, they still have 24 hours of stuff to cover. And so every day they're making a decision. Sometimes there's many important stories, and they have to push some to the side that don't get a lot of coverage and highlight the ones they think are the most important or will get the most attention. On other days, they have to go find stories, make news when there's not really news there to begin with. In fact, politicians and people in general will use this when they know something big is going to happen. If you know there's an election or a presidential debate or the Olympics or something, you might do something you don't want covered. You might enact a policy or do something you don't want people talking about because you know it's going to be pushed off the front page by those other stories. The issues that attract the serious attention of public officials and other people's actively involved in politics help to set the policy agenda. People who invest their political capital in an issue to get it placed high on the governmental agenda are policy entrepreneurs. These are people who use their influence with the media to try to get their story or their point of view talked about. And these are people who are very good at using the media to raise awareness of an issue. Obviously, you think of people like presidents and the senators who can do this, but you also might think about people like the Kony 2012 campaign, where they effectively used media, in this case internet media, to promote a message. And they're kind of one of the great success stories of this, regardless of how bizarrely that story turned out. The media is supposed to be a watchdog of politicians, and at times it does perform this function. We talked about Watergate, although I would argue that was a bit of an exception. New proposals are often met with skepticism, which restrict. So, for example, recently there's been a lot of talk about cutting Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. A lot of politicians are supporting this on both sides of the aisle, to be fair, although it's primarily a Republican policy, but many Democrats are on board. But the media is able to bring this out, bring it to light, and then there begins to be pushback. For example, in 2005, George Bush launched a big campaign to privatize Social Security. And the media reported on this, and this caused a massive backlash in the public. It was really one of the things that undermined Bush's support. Media also tends to identify problems that maybe you don't know are out there. And usually the media addresses these problems from the perspective of what can the government do about this. And so the media tends to call for government response to problems that it finds. You don't have to watch the news very long to see that this notion of whether it be kind of a small-scale local problem or a big international problem, of the media kind of bringing problems to our attention. One of the things that happens in the media is the media has a much easier time focusing on a person than it does on an institution, which is why the presidential election gets so much attention, but the Senate gets less attention, and the House of Representatives gets almost no attention at all. And it's also, when we talk about the president, why he has so much more power in terms of public opinion. The media, a well-functioning, effective media, which I personally don't believe we have, is vital for a successful democracy because the people have to be informed, because in a democracy, ultimately, the choice rests with the people. And if you don't have a well-functioning media providing good information to the people, then how are they supposed to make good decisions when they go out to choose their government? But of course, news is a business. And the media is not, they don't get up every day and go to work with the intention of informing us. They get up every day and go to work with the intention of getting better ratings so they can charge more for advertising and they can make more money. And this is, I think, one of the flaws in our system. We have a media that needs to be performing one function, informing us, but in reality is performing a separate function, trying to make money in a capitalistic entrepreneurial enterprise.